Coming hot off the heels of last week's Best Buy Direct, and with the faint smell in the air of a real one coming around, I don't know, sometime soon, there's a lot of rumored games that have been going around, and one of them in particular has caught my attention and has given me a thought that I can't quite seem to shake. The rumored release is Metroid Prime Trilogy, and this game is one of very few of its kind. I've been looking back and realized that the games industry has been doing a fairly good job of re-releasing their old classic games in the form of collections, compilations, and bundles to serve their community. But that's not really the approach that Nintendo has taken. So it begs the question, why is that? And also, which collections and compilations and bundles would we like to see from Nintendo in 2019 and beyond? Gee, Parker, those are some really good questions. Thanks. I was hoping you'd say that. So let's try to find some answers. What's odd about this conversation is Nintendo really did help pioneer this model in the first place. But as with most things Nintendo, they sort of lead the pack and then go off on their own way while everybody else picks up where they left off and runs with it. And we're just left sitting there looking at Nintendo like, come on, that you were doing it so great! So great! In November of 1988, Nintendo packaged together their 1985 hit title Super Mario Bros. With their fast-paced first-person shooter Duck Hunt. Although this isn't exactly the kind of collection we're looking for in this video, it's where we're gonna start. Several years later, in 1993, the SNES was going strong, and according to Super Mario All-Stars assistant director and designer Sugiyama, we're told that Miyamoto wanted to create a value pack, combining all of the Super Mario series games. The idea was to include the Lost Levels, a game not many had played on the disk system, thereby giving people another opportunity to play it. This flow of logic is precisely the goal of a game collection. Allow a low barrier of entry for fans of the current hardware to experience the history of a series, often either before or right after a new entry. Take Bayonetta as a stellar example. Nintendo planned to publish a third entry alongside developer Platinum Games, but had a good feeling that although newcomer interest was high, many hadn't had a Wii U and thus not the opportunity to play Bayonetta 2 or potentially Bayonetta 1. And here enters the bundle. Package 1 and 2 together for $60 all in to lower the barrier of entry, increase sales, and ideally expand the fan base. The benefit here is obvious. Customers feel appreciated because they can try something out without breaking the bank. The fan base grows, and the publisher can spend minimal work getting a title out the door. But if you'll notice, there is a large gap between 1993 and those Bayonetta bundles. Nintendo did have some other collections in the meantime, but not a ton, but let's go over them anyway. For example, the Wii release of Kirby's Dream Collection, which included Kirby's Dream Land 1, 2, and 3, Kirby's Adventure, Kirby Superstar, and Kirby 64. We also received an NES Remix Pack on the Wii U, which was appreciated for doing a lot more work to switch up the titles rather than simply shove them in a box. Of course, we also got the plethora of Game & Watch galleries and collections back in the day. And Mother 1 and 2 was a package deal that released on the Game Boy Advance in 2003 in anticipation of the 2006 title Mother 3. Hey Reggie! Where's our Mother 3? Furthermore, in anticipation of Wind Waker, Nintendo released the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition that included the slightly odd lineup of the Wind Waker demo, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, The Legend of Zelda, and Zelda 2 Adventure of Link, but no Link to the Past because it had apparently just recently been released on Game Boy Advance. Which is further proof that Nintendo doesn't quite get this game collection thing. But that does bring us back to our last example, which was also our first example, Metroid Prime Trilogy. This Retro Studios developed package's existence is really thanks to Brian Walker, the senior producer of Metroid Prime Echoes, who came up to the head of Retro Studios, Michael Kelbaugh, and was like, yo man, we should do something for the fans by letting them play all three of these in the same place. Michael Kelbaugh was like, yo, let's talk to Nintendo, and Nintendo was like, dope, sure, why not? And that's about it for Nintendo collections. I'm sure there's some that I've missed, and you'll probably just correct me in the comments, because, I mean, that's what comment sections are for, I'm pretty sure. But all in all, Nintendo just hasn't done a whole lot of these. So before I give my wish list of what I'd like to see Nintendo make compilations and collections of, let's take a look at some other collections that were done right. Some of the best examples of these kinds of collections would be Mega Man Legacy Collection, Sega Genesis Classics, the Disney Afternoon Collection, and the upcoming Castlevania Collection. But then we also have collections more like Spyro Reignited Trilogy, Halo Master Chief Collection, Crash Bandicoot Trilogy, and so on and so forth. Some of these collections just create a convenient package for us to hold on to these titles, but others yet go out of their way to rework textures, add content, increase quality of life values, or even remake the games from the ground up. Depending on the specific games, Nintendo could lean from one side of that spectrum to the other. But let's have some fun and talk about collections that would make us happy and Nintendo some money. Let's begin with some very easy collections that Nintendo could do with very little work, but would make a lot of people really happy. These might be the least likely to happen, funnily enough, but we'll talk about why that is a little bit later. It seems that similar to Kirby's Dream Collection, unless you're grabbing a whole body of work, it's best to pick a theme and let the chosen titles reflect it well. For example, a Mario Origins collection. I could see this as a $30 collection of Mario's roots: NES Donkey Kong, Super Mario Bros. 1, 3, 2 USA and Japan, Super Mario Land, and Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins. This would be less of a convenience collection since it's mostly on Nintendo Switch Online already, but rather more of one to display on your shelf and pick up to introduce to your 6-year-old niece who's only ever played Angry Birds. There's a ton that could be done with Mario, but a great collection in my opinion would also be a Sportsman Mario collection. For $60 you get Mario Power Tennis, Mario Super Sluggers, Super Mario Strikers, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Mario Hoops 3-on-3, and Mario Kart Double Dash, all in their original forms, but with a fun UI tying it all together. Moving away from Mario though, Fire Emblem is a franchise with a storied past that was close to extinction before it was saved by Awakening. There would be a lot of mixing and matching in just one collection, but alternatively you could roughly split it up into a few collections, akin to the Mega Man Legacy Collection. I'd say you put the NES and SNES games together, the Game Boy Advance and DS games together, and the GameCube, Wii, and 3DS games together. Prices could be $30, $40, and $50 respectively, and would launch a good number of years apart from each other. The last of the easy ones would be a Donkey Kong Fun with the Kongs collection, a $40 bundle of the original Donkey Kong Country trilogy, as well as the Donkey Kong Land trilogy. The Game Boy games were based heavily on their country counterparts, so they'd be wonderful additions, but may not be the selling points themselves. That said, it would be a fantastic collection of all of them together. So those are a few port them as they are ideas, but what about some that could really benefit from a fresh coat of paint and maybe even some reworking? To begin with, this one is a gimme. A Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD collection would not only make sense, but re-releases of those games in some form have even recently been rumored. Wind Waker HD released in 2013 at $50 and Twilight Princess HD in 2016 at $60, the standard prices for full-priced games upon each release. They feature obvious visual upgrades, some gameplay tweaks, and a small amount of additional content. At this point, it's likely these would come straight to the eShop, and likely for their original prices, or even each for $60. But it would nevertheless be reasonable to release them both together as a bundle, with the only tweaks being backtracking on gamepad functionality for a total of $60 as a bundle. You know, and Skyward Sword seems bound to happen eventually, but it'll probably be a really long time before we'd see all three of those bundled together. Tied for 6th place on Metacritic's top-rated games, Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 were originally meant to essentially be parts of just one game. Galaxy 2 came about simply because Nintendo had too many new ideas for just an extra pack of content for the first, and decided to make a straight sequel, which was a first for home console Mario games since The Lost Levels. Mario Galaxy has already been ported to the Nvidia Shield TV in China, so the upgraded visuals and removal of Wiimote has already been done in some regards. The Galaxy 1 and 2 bundle would be some of the easiest $60 Mario has made since the new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe for Switch. Furthermore, there's been talk for a very long time about Pikmin 4, and rumors even more recently of a port to Switch of Pikmin 3, which leaves the obvious floor open to a port of Hey Pikmin! What? No, never mind, sorry. Obviously, Pikmin 1 and 2 would make a perfect bundle for the Switch. These games are widely loved, highly rated, but also have a moderately small community amongst Nintendo fans. These games are beautiful but would look spectacular in HD, and the first could certainly benefit, in my opinion, from removing the mandatory 30-day timer. These would absolutely sell together for $60 to a ton of new and old fans alike. I also thought about Wario Land, Paper Mario, Golden Sun, Mario 64 and Sunshine, and a whole bunch more, but let's get on to the last bit that really affects this whole conversation. Yes, it would be amazing if Nintendo did us a solid and released all of these, but here's the thing. most likely it's not going to happen. And here's a couple reasons why I think that is. The first reason is perhaps the most obvious and straightforward: Nintendo Switch Online and historically the Virtual Console. As of yet, we know that with Nintendo Switch Online, we're getting our rations of 3 NES games a month, sometimes 2, added to the subscription service, and practically all of the big first-party NES games are already added, meaning we're about due for some news sometime soon. An additional point is that they could consider their classic console lines as collections in and of themselves. However, as a counterpoint to both of these, even with the online, assuming down the road we had access to all of NES, SNES, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, N64, and even GameCube libraries, the access to those libraries would still not necessarily rule out the precedent of a classics collection being released in retail. All of this is certainly less reason to put a collection together, but back in 2012 we saw a release of Kirby's Dream Collection on the Wii, a collection of 6 Kirby's games, which were all outside of the 2 Game Boy titles available on the Virtual Console at the time. Additionally, if we're continuing down this current road, then we'll be getting classic games for free with the paid service, rather than piecemeal as the Virtual Console delivered, meaning a paid collection would not be taking potential profit from individual digital sales, rather the worst it could do is pull from a few subscriptions. But even if this first reason isn't completely infallible, it's probably on Nintendo's mind, especially since their classic collection is largely what's pushing their online subscription at the moment. The next reason is in relation to the value that Nintendo imparts upon their games, counting nearly all of their first-party titles as evergreen titles, meaning that they won't lose their value over time as compared to other $60 AAA games that are $15 in the bargain bin about 3 months later. Nintendo could certainly argue that if they sell 6 vanilla games together for $60, then there may be more consumer confusion down the road if they would decide to go back and sell only one of them for $20 somewhere else. Like if they sold Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD in a bundle for $60, now does that mean they're each only worth $30 separately? But precedent has similarly been set with Bayonetta 1 and 2 on Switch, that a title can be worth something different in the context of a greater package compared to standing on its own. Bayonetta 1 and 2 are $60 bundled together, but digitally, Bayonetta 2 is $50 if purchased first, followed by an additional $10 for Bayonetta 1, or $30 each if you buy them the other way around. Of course, this is maybe because the publishing deals are different for both of those games, but it is interesting nevertheless, and a good precedent that Nintendo's set for themselves. Finally, the third reason that Nintendo may not want to make all these collections is that they're a very innovative company that is proud of their past games, but also may not want to rest on their laurels. For example, Konami has not been active and interesting in several years, but they are soon releasing a Castlevania collection, a Contra collection, and a Konami 50th anniversary collection. On a lot of fronts, we would love to see Nintendo take this approach, but it's genuinely better that they continue making new, varied experiences rather than just giving us a convenient way to play games we already know and love. Of course, Nintendo has been doing remakes for the past several years, including Link's Awakening remake coming out later this year, but even here there is still innovation being done. If there's anything that we've learned, it's that Nintendo would rather innovate poorly than to not innovate at all. So especially if Nintendo's going for this free games with Switch Online thing, collections of these games make more sense to me and not less. Let me experience all the games you have to offer with a low commitment, but then out of love for those games, or hatred for the subscription service, or even just fear that you may not have that subscription service for a really long time, let me buy those games back because there's something that I care about. Again, it would make me happy and it would make you money, Nintendo, and you like that stuff. But that's what I think. What do you think? Are there any other collections that I missed that you would be interested in seeing? Or otherwise, does this make sense to you? Does it seem like Nintendo doesn't want to do these things? I don't know. Any of that stuff, just let me know down in the comment section below, and like the video as well while you're down there, subscribe to it and all that good stuff. Stick around on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time for more of these kinds of videos. And then we've got a podcast. Whatever comments you put down there, we'll pick some of them out, put them on the podcast directly to you. It's Saturdays at 4 p.m. And then again, that's down here somewhere. Watch some of these other videos over here. That's going to be a good old time. And in the meantime, have a great day. You stay classy, San Diego.